Hi, everyone, and welcome to Black in Focus. I'm Karen Toulon here at our Bloomberg World headquarters in New York, and I am very excited to be joined by Cheryl McKissack Daniel today. She's the president and CEO of McKissack McKissack, which is the nation's oldest Black-owned construction company. Welcome, Cheryl.
Hi, Karen. Nice to be here with you.
We've been having some infrastructure problems of our own this morning with the connectivity, so we are fine. We're finally here talking live this morning, and we're going to be talking infrastructure. And of course, we'll be taking your questions. You can drop them into the comments box. McKissack McKissack has been a formal company for about 114 years, and we certainly want to talk about its rich history. But we really want to start off first talking about President Biden's $2.25 trillion infrastructure plan. Going to fix roads, bridges, water, renewables, expand broadband. It's really comprehensive. Also, though, increase taxes on the wealthy, on companies. Very contentious. Job add around 19 million over the next 10 years, although people say if you back out the jobs that would be added organically, it's closer to around 3 million jobs. Regardless, last time I checked, Cheryl, you're not a politician, neither am I, so we're really not going to get into the politics of it. What we really want to talk about with you is what infrastructure really is, why it matters, what it brings to the cities and communities around us. So I guess my first question to you is, McKissack McKissack, where do you do your big projects? Where are you in the world? Where do you operate?
So McKissack McKissack is the nation's largest construction firm, oldest construction firm. As you said, we date back to 1905. And our origin was in the South, really in Tennessee. But we opened an office in New York over 30 years ago. And New York has been our platform all of that time. And as you know, construction in New York is just huge. If you compare construction dollars spent per year to the rest of the country, it's exponentially larger in the city. So the city has been an excellent opportunity for McKissack McKissack to grow. And so over the last 30 years, we've had the opportunity to work on various infrastructure projects, as well as K through 12, higher ed, and healthcare, and now transit. And so our larger projects are JFK Terminal 1, where we are the program manager. We are also the independent engineer for the MTA, and that means we oversee the entire MTA capital program and sort of do what's called an operational audit, reporting into the board on budget and schedule and troubleshooting any issues that there may be. We were also part of Hudson River Park Trust, Harlem Hospital, School Construction Authority, Baruch College, Jay-Z's auditorium, which is in Brooklyn, the Barclay Arena. We did all of the infrastructure to make way for that project. So those are a few of the projects that we've had an opportunity to work on.
What are the downfalls? What are the risks of not maintaining major roadways or tunnels or major transit hubs if things kind of fall behind in their maintenance or upkeep? Is it easy to just kind of catch up, or is there a problem when things are left unfixed or unmaintained for stretches of time?
Yeah, absolutely. A structure is just like a car. Like if you don't get your oil changed, you're eventually gonna throw a rod. I don't even know if they have rods today. I drive an electric car, but you're gonna throw a rod and you're gonna damage the car, to some degree, so it's irreparable. And so infrastructure requires maintenance, continuous maintenance, And a lot of that information is provided from the very beginning. As soon as a project is completed, a whole maintenance program is put in place. However, it requires dollars to keep it going. And so for New York City, our whole city underneath Manhattan is a whole nother city that requires maintenance and infrastructure to keep it going. We have bridges, we have tunnels, and all of that is important. Right now, our biggest concern is the tunnel between New York and New Jersey, which is the large talked about project Gateway. That tunnel is essential to all of America. If for some reason there is no ability to go between New York and New Jersey, it has a significant financial impact to the entire country. And so that's a tunnel where we're seeing, chunks of concrete falling. We're seeing deterioration throughout. And so that's one, that's a tunnel that really needs to be fixed. And we're seeing that through several tunnels in New York City. So, yes, you have to maintain to make sure that you stay in good repair of all of your infrastructure.
And things certainly have changed a lot over the past year because of COVID. I know we've been trying to connect, and Chandra on your team has been so helpful. We've been trying to speak since before COVID, you and I, and COVID kind of scuttled our plans. What has COVID taught you, being in this business, about those large places that people gather? Has COVID made us think anything differently about how airports are structured, how bus terminals are structured, how roadways are built? Is that causing any changes to how you think about what you do for a living?
It will cause changes. I feel as though we are groping through this right now, like we did on public health in the very beginning of COVID last year. The CDC was just trying to figure out, what should we do? And so I think that the design and construction industry is in that position right now. It's definitely changed the way we work out in the field, but as far as the end product for the end users, I think that we're working that through. We're in the process of figuring out what our new workspace is going to look like. Our lease is up next year, and now we're going through a whole process with an architect just to understand what we need. Do we need hotel desk? What the gathering space is going to look like. So we're in that very beginning stages of really understanding what public space should be and what it should look like after COVID. Just preparing for, potentially another pandemic.
And you mentioned that you were working on the $8 billion JFK project. Is that have there been any changes? Are there any plans to change the structure of that main terminal to better accommodate what's needed now that how people enter the U.S. may be changing, and how people may need to be funneled through the airport structures as they arrive, and maybe need to go through health checks or other things as COVID may be here for a while?
This project will come online in about 4 years. And so while I'm sure COVID will have an effect on design, we have not begun to implement those changes yet. That'll probably be the next stage of design that we go through. But right now, COVID, when the design that we have was completed before COVID, and now we're getting ready to go into the next phase of design. And I'm sure that COVID will impact, the outcome of the new design.
What don't people understand about infrastructure? We hear infrastructure, and maybe some of my own questions might be a bit naive in terms of you hear infrastructure and you think, okay, there are roads and there are tunnels and there are pipes and okay, and maybe there's sewer systems, but what don't people understand about what it is? What is it?
I think because you don't see it, it's not a sexy, beautiful design like we have with the Freedom Tower downtown. But let's take the Freedom Tower as an example. The base of the Freedom Tower is a foundation that is so strong that a plane could fly into it. Um, and so you don't see that foundation, but if that foundation were not there, you would not have all the beautiful curtain wall that we see that goes up, what, 114 stories. And so infrastructure, what we don't know about is that we don't see it. And so we don't understand that it is the bones of our city. I mean, without it, it's the foundation fabric that keeps us moving and mobile.
A really interesting family. This is a really a classic, amazing American business story, which goes all the way back to slavery and a young person named Moses. Can you tell us about how your family ended up in the construction business?
Moses McKissack the second had 7 girls and 7 boys, and Moses McKissack the third and his brother Calvin followed the footsteps of their father, and they were master builders as well. And they actually incorporated us in 1905. That was before there were architectural licensing laws. That did not come into effect in Tennessee until the early 20s. So if you can imagine, they started their business in 1905, but in 1920, for them to stay in business, they had to get architectural license. And so they went to correspondence school to receive architectural degrees. And then they showed up to take their exam in the Deep South, where there was a lot of prejudice, uh, to take their architectural exam, and they were denied over and over again. Eventually, they found favor with one of the board members who allowed them to take the exam. And of course, they passed and became the first Black licensed architects in the country with license 117 and 118 in the state of Tennessee. And I actually have both of those original licenses in my New York office. The company was then passed down to my father, William McKissack, who was also an architect. But when he became ill, my mother, who had been a housewife for 17 years, had to step in and take over the business. And she likes to say, because she has a master's in psychology, that she understood all the manias and phobias around uh, men who thought women could not run a business. Because if you think about 1983, women could not borrow money because this was before the Women's Business Act, which allowed women to borrow money. Um, if mom had a son, he could have borrowed money, but she couldn't. So for a woman to run a business was an anomaly, but then to run a architecture or design and construction company was even more of an anomaly. But she was able to manage, and she brought myself and my 2 sisters back into the company. And then I came to New York and I opened my own company. And then in 2000, bought the company from her. And that's why we're here.
Wow. And of course, uh, diversity in the in federal contracting and in this area of business continues to be something that at least the Biden administration is looking at, and they're looking at ways to better assess and measure and manage how federal contracts are awarded to diverse companies. uh, do you think that enough is being done? Do you think how do you think that's working for diverse companies? If you can comment on that.
I am excited. I am extremely excited. The MWBE, which is Minority Women Owned Business Programs, started in New York probably 30 years ago. It's back then, the goals were probably 10% for, government contracting. That 10% of the contract would go to MWBE firms. And now New York City and New York State are at a minimum of 30%.
So Cheryl McKissack Daniel, thank you again for joining us on Black in Focus. Coming up next week, we're going to be taking a look at financial well-being, which I think is really, really important. So stay with us for that. So Cheryl, have a great day. Everyone else have a great day as well. I'm Karen Toulon, and this is Bloomberg. Have a good day. Take care.